submissions aren't quite good enough. And there's a really specific reason I'm saying that. We generally look at submissions in the modern world as you catch a guy in a submission, he taps out, he's essentially forfeiting the fight because he was caught in a submission, and thus the fight goes to the victor, right? Except that's treating it like a game. We're not treating it like what submissions really are, right? Submissions are one of two things. Submissions are either damage to the joints, tissues, bones, whatever, or submissions are literally painful holds to force compliance to get to something else. That's what submissions are for. Submissions are not submissions, right? That is a very modern way of thinking about it, a decontextualized, gamified way of thinking about it. And so obviously we can't compete with the idea of breaking and dislocating and tearing, right? Nobody would compete that way. Nobody wants to destroy and ruin their bodies for that. So we have to do the tap out. We have to do the submission version. There's other flaws with that, but I'm not worried about that at the moment, right? It's good enough for government work, as they say. It just leaves a little bit to be desired. As far as using the submissions to force compliance to do something else, that does occasionally happen. But oftentimes we end up just seeing it either flow into another submission, like setting a trap, or we see it flow into like a positional change for advantage or striking or whatever. And that's fine. But we need to address the big elephant in the room, which is that if we get to the point of submissions are actually there to cause damage. Now, chokes you can set aside, right? Like, because chokes, really the blood strangles specifically, but even the air chokes to a degree, will eventually cause loss of consciousness. So you can forgive those ones. But all of the limb, the joint, the fleshy submissions, it's a little different, right? One of the big things that we have to consider is that stories about people getting injured and fighting back, finishing their mission, whatever, are a dime a dozen. There are too many examples of people getting injured to the point of even losing function in a limb or a segment or whatever, and still going on and finishing the thing, right? Broken bones, broken feet and you hike on it, broken pelvis and you walk somewhere, broken neck and you walk to the hospital, right? I've brought this up multiple times. This was Taz in ECW way back in the day. He literally walked to the hospital with a broken neck, right? Kurt Angle finished gold medal with a broken neck. Steve Austin drove himself to the hospital from a match where he broke his neck. And yes, some people will break their necks and get paralyzed, right? We see this too, but and look, I know pro wrestling's not real fighting, but the fact is that the injury was real, and we've got 3 examples of guys taking themselves to the hospital, finishing whatever they were doing and doing stuff on a broken neck. Not Kurt Angle's wasn't pro wrestling at the time; it was real wrestling. But you know what I'm saying, right? You talk to military guys who've seen real duty, and you get guys that are breaking legs and feet and stuff on parachute jumps, and they still go and they complete the mission and then get help afterwards. There is a degree of trauma that humans can suffer and still fight back. So the idea that a submission is a win is really banking on the idea that somebody is willing to forfeit a match on the threat, the ethereal potential threat of a submission, as opposed to dealing with it and fighting back. Again, that's a very gamified way to look at it. And there's not really a good one-for-one real-world, compromise for this. We're just kind of stuck with the play versions of these things for safe competition and the longevity of athletes. So what I would recommend is much like the 3 knockdown rule used to be in boxing and kickboxing. I know they got rid of that some half a decade ago or more. But like the 3 knockdown TKO rule was in boxing, I think the submissions should be like, 3 submissions to prove it's not a fluke, that you can catch somebody over and over and over again in a match, not just one off, right? We can get away with one offs on loss of consciousness. We can get away with one offs on actual injuries. But catching somebody in a submission is, it's no guarantee that you would have actually won in an actual scenario. So I would much rather see submissions be like, 3 to win or best of 3 or something like that. Submissions are great. You absolutely should know them. I'm not saying anything bad about submissions in general and in concept. It's just the application that we do these things for the sake of competition, sport, and longevity and training does diminish the quality of what they're meant for, much like we've argued about throws. Everybody does safe throws now because of sport and longevity and whatnot, when really throws are meant to be really, really injuring people when you throw them to the ground. But we can't spike people in their head and neck, and we can't go out of our way to tear up shoulders and hips and knees and stuff when we throw people, because nobody would be participating in these sports and these competitions. So with regards and respect to safety, we do have to make some concessions, but that means that we should make up for those concessions in some way, some at least tributary way. And I think doing, a 3-fall submission or something would be a much more honest way of doing that, just because it puts a little more meat and substance on it. So I'm going to shut up now, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate it if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.